My name is Robert Harker. I'm a fisherman, not the romantic kind you see in films. No yellow slackers and sea shanties. I work 16-hour days, pulling crab pots off the coast of Whitby, North Yorkshire. My back aches, my hands are scarred, and I smell like brine and diesel no matter how much I scrub. I'm 34 years old. I've lived in Whitby my whole life. My father was a fisherman, his father before him. My great-great-grandfather, Thomas Harker, was a fisherman too, and he was there the night the Demeter washed ashore. If you know anything about Whitby, you know the story. 1897, a Russian schooner called the Demeter ran aground during a terrible storm. The entire crew was dead or missing. The only living thing aboard was a massive black dog that leapt from the deck and vanished into town. Bram Stoker turned it into fiction, wrote Dracula a few months later. But the thing about Whitby is, everyone here knows the story isn't fiction. Not entirely. I didn't believe in any of it until 3 weeks ago. I was out on my boat, the Mary Ann, about 4 miles offshore. It was just past dawn. The sky was grey, the sea was flat, and the gulls were quiet. Too quiet. That's when I saw it. A ship, dead in the water. No lights, no movement, just drifting. At first, I thought it was a cargo vessel that had lost power. It happens, but as I got closer, I realised it wasn't modern. It was wooden, old, the kind of ship you see in museums. The hull was black with rotten seaweed. The mast was snapped in half. The sails, what was left of them, hung in tatters like funeral shrouds. And then I saw the name, barely visible, carved into the stern, Demeter. I'm not a superstitious man. I don't cross myself when I see a magpie. I don't avoid sailing on Fridays. But standing there, staring at that ship, I felt something I haven't felt since I was a child. Fear. I radioed the Coast Guard. Coast Guard, this is fishing vessel Mary Ann. I've got a derelict ship drifting 4 miles northeast of Whitby Harbour. No sign of crew. Requesting assistance? There was a long pause, then a voice came back, older, tired. Mary Ann, can you confirm the name of the vessel? It says, Demeter. Another pause, longer this time. Stand by, Mary Ann. Do not board, do not approach. We're sending a team. The line went dead. I didn't wait for the Coast Guard. I should have, but something pulled me towards that ship. I brought the Mary Ann alongside and threw a grappling hook over the railing. The wood was so rotten it crumbled under my hands as I climbed aboard. The deck was empty, no crews, no bodies, just broken wood and coils of old rope covered in barnacles. But there was something else. Boxes, dozens of them, stacked near the hatch leading below deck. They were wooden crates, about the size of coffins, sealed with iron bands and strange symbols I didn't recognise, and one of them was open. The lid had been pried off from the inside. The wood around the edges was splintered outwards, like something had forced its way out. I looked inside. It was filled with dirt, black, oily dirt that smelled like rotten old blood, and pressed into the dirt were handprints, not human. The fingers were too long, the nails were too sharp. That's when I heard it, a sound from below deck, scraping, slow, deliberate, like something dragging itself across the floor. I should have run. I should have jumped back on my boat and radioed for help, but I didn't. I opened the hatch. The air below was thick and cold. It smelled like a grave. I climbed down the ladder, my torch cutting through the darkness. The cargo hold was full of more crates. Some were sealed, others had been torn open from the inside, dirt spilling out onto the floor. And then I saw them, symbols, carved into every surface, the walls, the floor, the ceiling. They weren't letters, they were older than that, shapes that hurt to look at, spirals and lines that seemed to move when I wasn't looking directly at them, and in the centre of the hold, scratched into the floor in what looked like dried blood, were words in Latin. Non es vampires, es liquid anticas. I don't speak Latin, but I know a man who does. I took the photos, the crates, the symbols, the words, then I got the hell out of there. By the time I climbed back onto my boat, the Coast Guard had arrived, 2 vessels, a dozen men in hazmat suits. They didn't ask me questions, they didn't even look at me. They just boarded the Demeter, and 30 minutes later, they towed it away. That night, I went to see Father Callum. He's the priest at St. Mary's Church, the one that overlooks the harbour. He's been there for 40 years. He's also the only person in Whitby who knows the truth about the Demeter. I showed him the photos. He went pale. "Where did you take these?" "On the ship. The Demeter. It washed up again." He stared at me. "Again? You're saying it happened before?" He didn't answer. He just grabbed the key from his desk and led me down into the church crypt. The crypt beneath St. Mary's is old, older than the church itself. The walls are stone, the air is damp, and the only light comes from a single bulb hanging from the ceiling. Father Callum led me to a locked cabinet in the corner. Inside were journals, dozens of them, leather-bound, some of them falling apart. He pulled one out and handed it to me. "This belonged to your great-great-grandfather, Thomas Harker." I opened it. The first entry was dated August the 9th, 1897. August the 9th, 1897. The ship came again last night. The Demeter. We thought it was gone. We thought we were safe. But it returned. Father Brennan said it always returns. He says the ship is cursed. Not by Dracula, but what Dracula was running from. The boxes are still sealed. Thank God. If they open, if what's inside gets out, Whitby will fall. We've done what we can. We've reinforced the wards. We've strengthened the sacristy of the abbey. But I don't know if it will be enough. If you're reading this, it means the ship has returned again. And if the boxes are open, God help you. I looked up at Father Callum. What's inside the boxes? He closed his eyes. Something older than Dracula. Something he was trying to keep contained. Contained? You're saying Dracula was the good guy? No, but he was the warden. The Demeter wasn't a passenger ship. It was a prison. And Dracula was the only thing strong enough to keep what was inside from escaping. Then where is he now? Father Callum didn't answer, but I already knew. I spent the next 3 days reading Thomas Harker's journals. They told a story I'd never heard before. In 1897, the Demeter didn't just wash ashore once, it came back 6 times over the course of a month. Each time, the crew was dead. Each time, the boxes were still sealed. But on the 7th time, one of the boxes was open, and something got out. August the 24th, 1897. It's killing people. Not like a vampire, not draining them. It's doing something worse. It's taking their faces. Mrs. Colson was found this morning in her home. Her body was intact, but her face was gone. Not torn off, smoothly removed, like someone had peeled it away. Her husband said she's been acting strange for days, staring at the walls, whispering in a language he didn't understand. Barbara Brennan says it's one of the things from the boxes. He calls them the faceless. They're not vampires, they're older. They're what vampires fear. I stopped reading. Faceless? I thought about the handprints in the dirt, the symbols on the walls, and then I thought about something else. The Coast Guard, the men in hazmat suits. They hadn't asked me any questions. They hadn't even looked at me. I went back to the harbour. The Demeter was gone, towed away, like I said. But I asked around, talked to some of the other fishermen. None of them had seen it. None of them had heard about it. It was like it had never been there. That night, I got a visit. There was a knock on my door at 11 p.m. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it. A man stood there, mid-50s, grey suit, thin face. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Mr. Harker, my name is Dr. Greaves. I'm with the English Heritage. I understand you boarded a vessel earlier this week." "The Demeter? Yeah, I reported it to the Coast Guard." "Yes, we appreciate that. May I come in?" I hesitated, but I let him in. Dr. Greaves sat at my kitchen table. He didn't take off his coat. "Mr. Harker, I need to ask you a very important question. Did you see anything unusual on the ship?" "Like what?" "Open boxes, symbols, anything out of place?" I didn't answer. He leaned forward. "Mr. Harker, the Demeter is not just a historical curiosity. It's a containment vessel. It was designed to hold something that should never be released. If even one of those boxes is open, we have a very serious problem." "What kind of problem?" He didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his coat and pulled out a photograph. It was old, black and white. It showed a man standing on the deck of the Demeter. The man had no face. "This was taken in 1897, Dr. Greaves said, 3 days before Thomas Harker disappeared." My blood ran cold. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying your great-great-grandfather didn't die, Mr. Harker. He became one of them." Dr. Greaves left an hour later. He didn't tell me what to do. He didn't warn me. He just said, "Stay away from the Abbey and don't go out after dark." I didn't listen. I went to the Abbey that night. Whitby Abbey sits on the cliff overlooking the town. It's been in ruins for centuries, but it's still one of the most sacred places in Whitby. Father Callum said the wards were there, that the Abbey was protecting the town. But when I arrived, I saw something that made my stomach drop. The wards were broken. The symbols carved into the stones were cracked. Some of them had been scratched away entirely. And standing in the centre of the ruins, staring up at the sky, was a figure. It looked like a man, but it wasn't. It wore old clothes, 1800s era sailor garbs, but the fabric was rotten and stained with something black, and it had no face, just smooth, pale skin where a face should have been. I didn't move, I didn't breathe. The figure turned towards me. It didn't have eyes, but I felt it looking at me. And then it spoke, not with a mouth. The voice came from inside my head. "You are blood of the warden." I didn't understand. "Thomas Harker, he kept us bound. But he is gone now, and the ship has returned." "What do you want?" "To be free. To take what was stolen. To wear the faces of the living." It started walking towards me. I ran down the steps, through the streets, back to my house. I locked every door, every window, but I knew it wouldn't matter. The next morning, I went back to Father Callum. He was standing in the churchyard, staring at the sea. "It's too late, isn't it?" I said. He nodded. "How many?" "3 so far, maybe more." "What do we do?" He turned to me. "We finished what your great-great-grandfather started." Father Callum told me the truth. Thomas Harker didn't disappear in 1897. He made a choice. When the Demeter returned for the 7th time and the Faceless escaped, Thomas realised the only way to stop them was to become the warden. He went aboard the ship, he sealed himself in one of the boxes, and he bound himself to the ship, his blood, his soul. As long as Thomas Harker remained sealed in that box, the Demeter would stay dormant. The faceless would be contained, but now the seal was broken, the ship had returned, and Thomas Harker was gone. "You're his blood," Father Callum said. "You can take his place." "You're asking me to trap myself on that ship." "I'm asking you to save Whitby." I didn't answer, because I didn't know what to say. It's been 2 weeks since I went aboard the Demeter. I'm writing this from inside one of the boxes. I can feel them, the faceless. They're still here, contained, for now. But I don't know how long I can hold them. The wards are weakening, the ship is drifting again. One day, it will wash ashore, and if no one from my bloodline is there to take my place, God help Whitby, God help us all.